All right, everybody. Today we've got with us Robert Garza, a friend of mine from Texas, who is quite the mover and shaker in the world of family law. He's doing amazing things. And today we're going to be talking about his legislative efforts, the way things have been changing, his experience in family court, and the effects of actually being an advocate, what it's actually like being on the ground. How you doing, Robert?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. I've been watching you for years, and you're such an amazing person. Can you just give me a brief overview of who you are?
Sure. I'm a father. Went through family court for about 15, 16 years now. Spent about 700,000 being able to be in my kid's life, 43 plus false allegations, and figured out where all the loopholes were in family court, and now we're changing them.
So that's a dramatic and a painful story, I'm sure. But when you say finding all the loopholes and fixing them, what's the number one loophole that you're going after?
False allegations. Those. It doesn't matter what kind of custody you have. If you do a false allegation, your custody goes to zero. Doesn't matter if you have standard possession, expanded standard, or even 50-50.
So, but that's a really interesting thing. Like we say false allegations, and how do you prove a false allegation? Because one of the things I often see is mom makes the allegation, mom and dad have 2 or 3 year old little girl, and the allegation is always the same. Mom says, I am afraid that dad may be fingering the baby when he's changing the diaper. How do you prove that she's not afraid?
Well, I don't know about afraid, but they make false allegations all the time, and it's their burden of proof to prove it. The problem is with family court, they take away your parental rights on a precaution, and that's where the detriment to you and your child's relationship is. And so usually, let's just say CPS, they take 30, 60, 90 days to investigate something, and then that's when the games start. So even after it's ruled out, that's where opposing counsel doesn't have any dates available. Then here we go again, like that, and then you're 2 or 3 months to even get into court. And so then there's 5 months that have went by, and by that time you're alienated, or the kid's brainwashed, or even worse.
So how are you approaching that from a legislative perspective? How are you addressing false allegations issues?
We did great in Texas. So what I came up with was a bill that passed into law, and it's called Time Taken, Time Back. And basically, when you go through that false allegation and CPS finishes their investigation and there's no abuse or neglect found, then when they return the child, they shall return the time. And what that does is it repairs that parental bond that was broken by precaution by the court. And you don't have to have another hearing on why you want that time back. When you dissolve that protective order, restraining order, and your decree goes into effect, they shall return the time when they return the child. And it
Which that
disincentivizes.
I'm sorry.
It disincentivizes making the allegation in the first place, because if they do holiday hijacking right before, let's just say, Christmas, you could lose literally Christmas, New Year's, even Thanksgiving before that, and all those months are gone. And by the time you get into court to dissolve that, it's months that go by. So, and then even after you get in, then you have to set another date to get that time back. And so now this shifts the burden of proof. They can still argue that you don't deserve that time back, but if they can't prove why that is, then you shall get that time back when they return the child.
Okay. So this sounds awesome for people that actually have custody orders in place. What about for those who are just starting out? They don't may not necessarily have orders for time. How does this bill impact that?
It doesn't really impact it because there is no time to give back if there is not a court order. So in that aspect, then you really can't legislate something like that. There has to be a court order, and that's the worst part of all this. So if you have a kid with someone or a child, and there is no court order, or even in a divorce, those are what leaves you in legal limbo.
Mhm.
And I haven't addressed that one yet, but it's coming.
Okay, good, good, because that's the one that we see a lot. Dad files for the petition to get custody and is immediately hit with some sort of allegation that he's an alcoholic, abusive. Maybe he sees the kid one time and then mom starts the false allegations and puts everything on hold into that quagmire.
The biggest way to fight false allegations that I found is that, let's just say you've been married for 6 years and there was never any police involvement or CPS involvement. That's when there's a false allegation like that, and all of a sudden you file for divorce and then you're an abuser, a molester, and all kinds of things. If there was never any police involvement, that's in your restraining order, protective order hearing. That's what your attorney needs to bring up is like, look, there was never any of this abuse. If you're an abuser, you're an abuser. And same thing with molesting or anything else. But if there was never any police involvement or CPS involvement, then more than likely 99% of the time it's BS.
Right. And we see that a lot in our practice where the false allegations come out, and it's really just a ploy either to delay dad getting any kind of access and have a relationship established with the kid, which translates into money because it's always about money.
It always is. The courts are incentivized for all this conflict, and they welcome it. If you want to start conflict, they're like, okay, we'll assign you a parent facilitator, amicus attorney for the kids, or a guardian ad litem. We'll have a home study, a psych eval. They'll run the whole gamut until you either understand that this is wasted money and resources when you could just go in and just be a co-parent. It's not your child's fault, and you're the one that picked the other person. So don't put your child in the middle of that.
That's the one that always amazes me is when moms, they pick the father of their children and then they complain about him. It's like, wait a second, you're the one that made this happen. Like at the end of the day, unless it's a rape situation, you're the one who's actually making the decision here. You should be the responsible party. And now you can't come back and like say you made a bad choice, is my
Yeah.
opinion.
Well, even if they made a bad choice, they don't have to keep making the bad choices. I had a parent the other day. She kept, just kept coming back at me on comments and, well, what about this? So what about that? And I'm like, wow. I was like, okay, I can't legislate the mistakes that you made in choosing the person that you chose to have a child with.
Right.
And you can't legislate a narcissist, and you can't legislate crazy.
That is 100% true. But the problem that I see that you run up against and that we all run up against is, probably 75% of family law cases are in court one time. The people work out some agreement, they come to court, get orders, they're done. Maybe they go back 10 years later to make some changes. The problem that I see is we get legislation off of the 5 or 10% of the truly crazy where we're dealing with the narcissists, the borderline personalities, which generally makes bad law. That's where we get these crazy domestic violence rulings like we've got in California, where it's coercive control is now grounds for a restraining order. I don't even know what that means. What is coercive control? It's a
Uh,
bogus term.
these DV groups, they keep saying coercive control, abusive, everything else, and it's really not. They're throwing. I just posted about this, and let's just say 50-50 parenting. So there's really no argument against it if you just say, and this is anybody wants to talk about 50-50 shared parenting or anything like that, just up front, just say, look, anybody that wants 50-50 shared parenting, I'm not talking about coercive control or any kind of domestic violence or false allegations. Everybody can agree that if there's domestic violence or false allegations, you do not deserve 50-50 parenting. So now that that's off the board, what's your argument for 50-50? They don't have one.
They don't, and they never will. The best they can come up with is it needs to be age appropriate, which I would agree with. I mean, honestly, there's a small measure of truth in that because obviously a child who is 2 or 3 or 4 months old probably needs to have mom around for breastfeeding, although there is certainly the argument for formula. But I think that one of those issues should realistically be age appropriate and just getting to 50-50 a lot quicker than most people want to do it.
Yeah, that's probably a small part of it because usually it's the infants in the infant stage that you get along. It's usually the toddler stage and the older stage that most people get divorced when they're having kids. I mean, I don't know what the statistics on it are, but I see what you're saying. I know whenever my ex did this, she would just pump and give breast milk, and then there you go.
Sure, there's ways around it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's interesting though. You're focused on the divorces. Are you seeing around you more married couples or unmarried couples who are fighting over custody?
The most that I see are married couples getting divorced. The unmarried couples, even though there's probably a big percentage of them, I really don't see a lot of those. Most of the places that I see problems happening is the divorces.
Okay,
And it
that's
makes sense
interesting.
if you think about it because, I mean, if you're never married, then there's no assets, and that's the biggest one. Is you're splitting assets. There's people mad or pissed off. But if you're already in a not in a relationship, and all you have to do is figure out what to do with the child, then that alleviates a lot of that.
Well, it does in some ways, but it also makes it harder because if you're not married, the man has no real rights until he goes to court. Realistically,
Yeah.
they always tell me, "Well, I'm on the birth certificate. I'm the father." I'm like, "Yeah, what you really did was sign a contract to pay child support. That's what that is. It doesn't give you custody right off the bat."
You know what? I have had a lot of men talk to me lately about getting put on child support. Actually, I just had a mom yesterday say, "Look, the dad won't give me the kid, and so I put myself on child support." I was like, "Wow." So once you get put on child support, you get a court order, and you have to have a court order, and usually standard possession is what you get. So that's the solution for that right now is if you don't have any rights, you put yourself on child support, and then all of a sudden you get a standard possession order.
Is that just a Texas thing? Because we don't do that here. If you don't have a court order for custody, the assumption is just mom's got 100%, and now you're paying child support based on the worst possible scenario.
Wow. Yeah. No. In Texas, if you put yourself on child support, you get a court order and you get standard possession.
Okay, well that actually makes sense.
Yeah.
That's better than what we've got. That's good. So, after your horrific experience in family court, you got involved in lobbying and legislating. Can you give me sort of a short version of what was that evolution like? How did you go from litigant to, I guess, in some ways, you're a lobbyist,
Advocate.
advocate? Okay,
Lobbyists get paid. I don't get paid. I did this on a shoestring budget. I figured out when I got out of court that I wanted to change the law, and I didn't know how the laws worked. I went all the way to President Trump, Ted Cruz, and showed him the bill and said, "Hey, look, I showed Ted Cruz, like, look, this is an amazing bill. Look at it. Here's the problem. Here's the solution." He was like, "That's great, but I can't do anything for you. You have to go to your state legislator, whether it's your House rep or your state rep." And I'm like, oh, how did I took months to get all the way up to these guys, and they
right.
can't do anything for me. So I went all the way back down, went to Angela Paxton, my state senator, and showed her the bill. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't that easy. They're very busy, and so I went by there every week, and by her office, and said, "Hey, I'm Robert Garza. I would like a visit." And finally, I got an appointment set with her. And at first, you have to go through their staff, and then they have to vet you and whatever because they don't want to waste senators or House reps' time.
For sure.
And they thought it was a great bill, great idea. And then when I talked to her, she's like, "Wow, this is amazing. Are you a lawyer?" And I was like, "No." And she was like, "This solves a lot of issues." And she was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And she submitted it, and it turned it into a bill, and they voted on it, and it went through unanimous, bipartisan, went through the first time. And so, literally, if you think about this, within 6 months, it took that bill from start to finish to become law. It affects 60 million. How many? I think it was 60 million Texans or 30, I think it's 60 million Texans, something like that, is what we have in Texas. But it affects a lot of people very quickly. So I couldn't do anything in my court case in 6 months. This is absolutely the way to go.
So that's a really interesting experience. What was it like for you when you actually got her to then agree? Did you have to do a lot of follow up? Like, what kind of support did you have to then give her? Did you have to then go and, I guess, advocate to other legislators?
So I actually got this down pretty well. I passed the same law in North Dakota just recently.
Hmm.
And so what I've done is I've amended, well, let's go through the process first. So, yes. So once you go by there, you could either email or phone call, get an appointment set up. And then once they turn the bill in, it has a bill number assigned. Then you have to have also, so that was in the Senate side. So then I had to go get an advocate for a sponsor in the House side. And so it was David Cook. And so I had David Cook in the House, Angela Paxton in the Senate. And so the bill goes through the House and it goes through the Senate, and then they meet in the middle. And then that's the fastest way to get a bill through. You could do it just with a senator or just a House rep. I did this one on both sides. And so they turned the bill into a Senate bill. They kept the Senate bill and just got rid of the House bill. And then the governor signed off on it and it became law. But yes, so during all these processes, you actually have to go and testify for these bills. Now that's a whole nother story.
What? Well, okay. So I got a whole bunch of questions, like, because we go through when bills go through the process. There's always people either make a change or they add something or they take something out. They're adding in pork frequently. It's just like, let's add other things in here. Did any of that happen to your bill process?
It did. The first one that I did, the time taken, time back, it got amended, I think, once or twice. But I was involved in that whole process, so it was good to see all that and figure out everything. And then the way that bills work, and so like my three strikes law, this session that is going through, the way that it goes is, so it got introduced in the Senate. So they had a criminal justice committee Senate hearing, and that was a committee hearing, and then it went through unanimous on that one. Then it goes to the full Senate, and then the full Senate votes on it, and they went through unanimous except for one senator. And then it went to the House Criminal Justice Committee, and it got voted on there, and it went through unanimous. And then it was supposed to go to the full House, and it ran out of time. But that's kind of like the way that it goes. But each one of those hearings that you get, you can testify on it, or anyone else. They can be for or against it.
Okay. So you got David Cook in the House, you got Angela in the Senate. Did you have to go find supporters for them? Did you do a job of helping rally the troops for them in their respective houses?
Yes. So I asked them who would oppose this bill, who would be against it, and that's who I went and talked to free up if they had any questions or anything like that. That was the fastest route that anybody can take. You don't need to be spending time talking to people that will support you. You need to figure out who's against it, and that's who you go talk to.
That sounds like a Mark Ludwig approach. You know Mark?
I do. I know. Yeah.
I love Mark. He's amazing.
Yep.
Um, so that was your first bill, was time taken, time returned. What's your second bill? This three strikes bill we're talking about.
Three strikes law. Yep.
Three strikes.
So the only two ways that I've seen that people can really interfere with your child custody is they can do a false allegation, or they can interfere with your child custody, which is, when it's your weekend, they just don't show up, or they say you can't have the kids. When you knock at the door, they don't answer it, or they're like, nope, you can't have them. So when you call the cops right now, it's a felony pretty much in every state to interfere with someone's child custody with a court order. The problem is they don't prosecute for it. And that's where this lies. And so I did the same thing when I went with the time taken, time back. I passed the law and my ex stopped making false allegations. Then she started interfering with my child custody. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So now I have to pass another law to stop this. But I did. I came out with it, and so now she didn't really interfere anymore now. But I think that it's like crap
You
every
may have
time.
learned your lesson.
Yeah, it's like he's changing this. I don't know if it was their attorneys or whatever. They're like, stop it, because he's stopping the whole game. He's shutting it down. So like we can't keep doing this to him because he keeps shutting it down. And so when I went to go pick up my kids for spring break, she had went to Colorado skiing with them, and I'm like, you gotta be. So I called the cops. They came out. They're like,
Wow.
well, it's a civil matter, and I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. I was like, let me show you something. I was like, call your sergeant, call everybody, because I'm going to teach you how this works. And so the process is you're going to take you're going to take a police report. It's going to go to a detective in your youth division. They're going to find probable cause. As you can see, she didn't show. Here's my court order to show you that she's not here and she's supposed to be here. And he even called her, and the cop called her FaceTime and said, kids are okay. Yeah. All right. Well, you're supposed to be here. And she was like, no, it's not his time. I'm like, here's a court order. I'm not going to argue about this. You just need to put it in your report. She's not here and whatever. And so then it goes to the DA when they find probable cause. Then it goes to a grand jury. The problem in Texas that we're having is that it's the non-custodial parent that can get prosecuted for this. The custodial parent can't get prosecuted for it. And that's the loophole. Yeah. Well, the sad part is, and I'll explain this to you, because the sad part is, so when the legislators made this interference with child custody thing, that was like 30 years ago. The
Oh.
legislators thought that the custodial parent is the person with the custody at that time. And the court order will tell you who's supposed to have the custody at that time. So the
Hmm.
legislators in their writings put the custodial parent, and the non-custodial is a person that shouldn't have the child at that time. The problem with the court orders for the last 20 years, in Texas at least, is that they say that the primary parent is the custodial parent and the non-primary is the non-custodial. So what the legislators thought would work didn't, because of what Texas did in their rulings. And so that's why the custodial can't be held accountable, because they were saying in their legislation that the custodial parent is the parent that had the possession period at that time, possession. So,
Hey, Dad, if you have to go into family court to get more time to see your kids, you need every advantage possible. And at dadslawschool.com, we're going to give you those advantages. If you're having trouble getting the judge to see your proof, we're going to show you how to get that proof admitted so that it becomes evidence in court. If you're feeling lonely, isolated, overwhelmed, angry, abused, used, confused, all of those feelings, at dadslawschool.com, we've got support to help you through that stuff. You should come join our VIP program today and get the power and strength you need to go in and fight for your kids so that you can get the time you want and that they deserve. Have a great day. Remember, I think you're freaking awesome. If you want more time with your kids, join our VIP program today. So how does your three strikes law work now?
yep. So when the cops come out and somebody calls the cops, the first time they come out, it's a $500 fine. The first time, the second time, and the third time, it becomes a state jail felony, what it is right now.
Has anybody been prosecuted under this?
No, it hasn't passed yet.
Okay,
So
so
we're still going through legislation. We're on a special session right now. And so the House took off. So
yeah.
they can't meet quorum. And so they're stuck. They're at a standstill. So what's going to happen is when they come back, the governor's going to call another special session.
So can this go through on a special session, or do we have to wait for a regular session?
So this was really important to the governor and to legislators, because special session is only for specific things, and the governor says what the special session is about. Anything that falls other than those bills or other than those things, like right now we had floods in Texas. That's one of the any bill that have to do with floods or funding, stuff like that. That's a special session. Police are a special session, and there's like 4 or 5 other things, but it's very limited. But this fell in the police one.
Nice. How rewarding is this to you? I mean, I would imagine it's got to be very rewarding, but tell me your experience with this.
It is rewarding to see that you can affect change. And I'm just a father. Like, I'm just a parent, just like anyone else. I didn't go to school for this. I wasn't a lawyer, a judge. A lot of people think that I'm an attorney. I'm not. I can't give you legal advice, but I can change. Actually, anybody can change the laws that the courts go by, the judges go by, and the lawyers go by. The judicial system is governed by the legislature. And so, as long as you can think of something you want to change, like cameras in the courtroom, and even when I was going through this system, the judge refused to rule on my case, just wouldn't rule on it. And it took 6 months, and I had to keep saying, "Hey, where's my ruling? Where's my ruling?" And I looked up the laws on it, and every state is like this. There's rules for judges and litigants for everything except for a judge to rule. So I came out with a 10-day rule. That's what I'm saying. Anytime they mess with me, I see what that loophole is and I close it. So now judges, next legislation, are going to have a 10-day rule. And I always say this: what did you have for dinner or lunch last Thursday? You don't know. And that's because you only had 3 meals in between. A judge hears 10 to 15 people, and so they can't possibly remember your case. And if you can't remember someone's case and all the nuances of it, that's not justice. You pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to get in there, and if they don't rule on it and they can't remember it, that's not justice. That's justice delayed. That's why I
Absolutely.
called it justice delayed is justice denied.
That's interesting that Texas didn't have that ruling because in California we have time limits for them to issue orders.
Really
Yeah,
interesting.
and it's tied directly to their paycheck. They have to certify every time, like every month, that they've got nothing that's gone beyond the deadlines. It's like 60 days, I believe, for regular orders and 90 days for a trial ruling.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that.
So that may be an interesting thing for you to add in if there's an opportunity to tweak it. Tie it to their paychecks, man.
Well, nobody wants to wait 60, 90 days.
Absolutely not.
I'm talking about 10 business days. And even if they need more time in the bill, it says if they're waiting for a drug test, then when they receive that drug test back, then they can make their ruling. So they have 7 days after they receive anything. And then if they need more time, then they have 10 days. But every 10 days, they have to file into the case why they need 10 more days. So it puts the burden of proof back on the judge to just hurry up and rule. There's no reason for
Right.
the delay.
Yeah, there really isn't. I'm glad to see you doing things like this. You just continue to impress the hell out of me.
Thanks.
No,
I mean, it's learned. I mean, if you're going to do something to these parents, then there's going to be consequences also. And if you're going to keep playing these games, see, the sad part about this is that they always have the discretion to do the right thing right now. They can do 50-50 right now if they wanted to in any state. They just choose to do the very least, which is standard possession. That's the problem. They had the chance, my judge had the chance to give me my time back. She chose to do the least amount of work, which was, we'll just return the child and we're good. Let's just move forward. No, there was problems here and I needed that time back to repair that parental bond that was taken by the court by precaution. And so now in Texas, no judge has that authority. When you return the child, you shall return the time and the same type of time.
that's awesome. You have gone through so much in family court with 43 accusations. Then you went through the legislative process. What's your secret for persistence? How do you survive all this stuff?
Um, you have to have a good support group around you. My family, my wife, my kids. I have my kids, and I think that's a big part is where a lot of these people don't, and so they give up. You can't give up. I mean, I fought for 15, 16 years just to be able to be a father in my kid's life. Even though I have my kids, I'm still fighting even harder now to change these laws because I don't want my children or grandchildren or even your kids or you going through this anymore. And the crazy part is now, since I was able to do it in Texas, I'm doing it on a national level now. So now all the bills that I'm passing in Texas are national. And the crazy part is now I have people from Australia, New Zealand, Canada. I'm going to be in Canada in September talking about legislation also. This has gone like it's gone global basically. This same problems that we're seeing
Yeah,
everywhere. Yeah, it's everywhere.
it is. And we've got guys in the Dad's Law School in our VIP program. We've had guys from Australia, South Africa, the UK. Canada. My book gets sold all over the world because this is a global problem. People are fighting these same issues, and I'm so just blown away at the work you've been able to accomplish. I want to just take copies of those bills and let's go get them in California because we have these issues and we have them with a big population. You got 12 million people in LA County. That's an entire state,
Yeah.
and they're fighting these same issues. We see these every single day.
Yeah. The neat thing with the bills is that before, because I was in these support groups too, it was an echo chamber for everyone just to say how bad the system was against them, their exes, but nobody really had a solution. And so now, even I went to my state legislators before this. Eric Carroll and I went to probably 40 something states to testify in front of judiciary committees about all these issues that we're having in family court. And that really didn't do anything, but we learned a lot from it. But um, I realized that it was just an echo chamber, and it was just a bunch of people that were talking about the trauma that they've experienced, but nobody had a solution. When I did the time taken, time back, that was actually the first solution. But then my ex did the interfering with child custody, so I had to find another solution. The judge delayed the hearings or the ruling, so I had to find a solution for that. And so it was just like, okay, I think I got this down. And so wrote about 400 bills now and amended all the. I wrote about 8 solutions for each state, and that's about 400 legislative bills that are out there on my website.
What? Wait a second. Back up. You mean you've already got these bills written for each state?
Yeah. If you go to robertgarza.us, you
Yeah.
can click on it and it'll pull it up. And the cool part is my website guy was pretty cool, smart. When you go to it, it actually knows you're in California, and so you don't get a lot of fluff or from any other states. It just pulls up the 8 bills. You can click on the bill stack, and it has 50-50. It has time taken, time back, 3 strikes law, cameras in the courtroom, justice delayed, justice denied. And then amend temporary orders. So people's orders, when you get your temporary orders, are your final orders unless you can get to final trial. If the judge screws you over, does something wrong, you can't appeal them. So I wrote a bill for every state to be able to appeal them. So I had to go into your state's code, figure out where my law fit in there, and then amend that code. And then I amended it for your state. So now when you go to the website, you can click on a bill. It has a legislative pack, and it has a short email to your legislator saying you want a Zoom call, set up a Zoom call with them, and send me the link, and I'll pop in there with you, and then we'll talk to your legislator about it, and then a background about the bill, and then the bill itself. It's packaged for you already.
I'm so impressed. Like that blows me away. That's fantastic. That makes it so easy that every state should have this in like the next 3 years.
Oh, there's 400 bills already on my website, 8 for each state, and I'm about to do. I think there's 13 total, so it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and it's just me doing it on a shoestring budget.
Right. So how are you doing that? Like, do you take donations? Do people support you? Like, what's going on here? Are we just independently wealthy?
No, well, I had money 15 years ago before the divorce. We used
Right.
to have a classic car museum and all kinds of stuff. That all went to attorneys. That's why I'm pro se now. I can't even afford an attorney. I ended up charging up about 20 something credit cards, 26 credit cards to be able just to fight the home studies, the psych evals, the amicus attorneys, the guardian ad litem, the whole gamut, parent facilitators. So I know what parents are going through. I get it. And so I never wanted to even ask for donations. But after taking this on, it's grown bigger than I thought. And now it's a full time job to be able to do this. But if you think about it, I can amend a bill every couple of hours. So if I can research it, amend it, it'll affect millions of people in 2 hours of work. What is that worth? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's worth it for me not to do something else other than to do this to me. And
Sure.
and so until if I can keep doing this, I'll do it, all day long. But as of right now, I put all of my other work on the back burner to do nothing but this because I can't see anything more important than righting these wrongs.
How do people support you? How do they like reach out and give you support? I
Yeah.
know there are people that want to help you.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that, like, if I had gone through this, what I went through, and I said, okay, I'm done. I'm taking my kids, I'm getting out, and I go make a lot of money. If someone was doing what I was doing, I'd be like, wow, okay, you know what? They have the solution. That's what needs to be done. I'm hoping a big donor comes and does that. What I really don't want, and that's why hesitate asking for donations, is because I don't want you to have money for a gallon of gas and to go get your kid and you're trying to give it to me. That is not what I want at all. Like, you keep your money, you do your gallon of gas and your kid food and your electricity on, because you need to be a parent still, the best parent you can possibly be. But I'm hoping there's going to be somebody that steps up and says, if I've already proven myself, I've passed bills not only in Texas but other states. I wrote 400 amendments to to the U.S. with no support, and but so someone can support with donations, and then the other way they can support is sharing all of the reels, the memes that I come up with, and just get the awareness out that there is a solution. I've had people just every day they come on my site, they're like, "Wow, where's this solution been? I never knew." And
Right.
so,
But I really want to encourage it, it- the people that are making the choice between giving you a dollar or buying milk. We don't have to worry about them. They're going to choose the milk. Go after the middle ground. There's a lot of middle ground that can help you, because the more you have, the more you'll be able to do.
yeah, I don't think people understand. Like, after I figured this out, like, I could literally affect millions of people within 6 months. And
Yeah.
I have a lot of people that reach out, and please, I would love to help everyone with their case. And I tried doing that.
Yeah.
That
You
takes
can.
so much work, and it only helps one person. And so I had someone reach out to me the other day, and they're like, "Hey, can you help me with my case?" And I personally called them. I'm like, "Hey, look, I saw your story. I'm so sorry you're going through this, but if I help you for, let's just say, 4 hours, I could literally write a bill for that affects millions of people. Which would you rather me do? Help you in your case
Hmm.
for 4 hours, or affect millions of people?" He was like, "Absolutely affect millions of people." He was like, I get it. I understand.
Yeah. And that's literally why I started Dad's Law School and why I wrote Dad's Child Custody Action Plan. You could pay me whatever my hourly rate is, that whatever it is, and I can only deal with one person at a time. But with my TikToks, with my YouTube videos, with my courses, I can do things at scale. And that's my goal, is to do things at scale to help more people, because while you're dealing with things on the legislative side, I'm trying to help them when they're actually in the trenches of, how do you actually go fight to the judge? How do you make your argument to the judge? How do you present to the judge that you're actually a great dad? And this is just, I totally get it. And it's like, I so want people to help you and give you the support you need, because what you're doing is you're changing the world. You are absolutely 100% changing the world, Robert. It is amazing.
Thank you.
Blown away from you. Like, you just blow me away. It's awesome.
Thanks. I believe this is the largest civil rights movement since the civil rights. The civil rights only affected a class of people, and this is affecting every man, woman, child, race, color, creed, religion. Doesn't matter. It affects everyone eventually. And with these legislative changes, 50-50, stopping people from being able to take your parental rights away on a precaution, all these things are they're protecting your constitutional rights also, and they're righting those
Absolutely.
wrongs.
But I think it's also one of the other things you mentioned earlier. It's that you're also protecting your kids' rights. You're protecting your future and your grandchildren's rights and your relationship with those grandkids, because Lord only knows what's going to happen down the road with your kids getting involved with somebody else. We need to have these protections in place for everybody.
Yeah. One of the statistics that I say a lot, because I think it really hits home, is that anytime possession falls below 40%, you put the child at risk for alcoholism, teen pregnancy, high school dropout, incarceration. Standard possession in most states is 29% to one parent. Expanded standard is 39. I was in front of a bunch of judges and lawyers doing a continuing education class on this, since I was able to change the law. I'm able to teach some of these classes and go in and tell them why I had to change the law. And I told them those stats, and they're like, whoa. And I'm like, do you realize for the last 50 years that you judges have been sentencing to our children being at risk with standard possession? And they just was like, oh, wow. I was like, that's why we have the problems that we're having today. The courts have been putting our children at risk for the last 50 years. And that's why we have such a high incarceration rate and everything else. But
I think you're 100% right in that. But I just want to add in one twist to that. It's not just the courts, it's also bad moms. Good moms are working with dad and they're not fighting them on custody. And that isn't the issue. It's partly the courts, but it's also partly bad moms who are doing it out of their own bad motives because they're angry, they're hurt, they're going for the money, whatever the reason is. But those are also the ones that we need to fight.
well, I always say you have to love your child more than you hate your ex.
Right.
And if you just follow that, then you're okay. But you bring me to another point that I believe that my ex didn't even know how to do this until her attorney taught her how. Now, most parents going pro se won't do the stuff that we're all going through. It's the attorneys that know how to do this. And so I have another bill that is for parental alienating behaviors, and it's for litigation. And so if there's any kind of parental alienating behaviors found in your case and the judge rules on it, and an alienating behavior is gatekeeping, interference with child custody, false allegations, when there's those proven in your case after the bill becomes a law in your state, is that person doing those behaviors pays all the fees for all the professionals, the opposing counsel, your counsel, everyone. And that will stop all of this mess also, because if my attorney taught me how to do this and I got dinged for not only my fees but my ex's fees and everyone else because I was playing this game, I'm going to throw my attorney under the bus and say, hey, he's the one that taught me how to do this. After that, there's not going to be any of these games. That's what I'm saying. I'm finding these ways of discouraging this bad behavior.
Are you familiar with the parental alienation study group?
I am. I'm part of.
Are you a part of it?
Mhm.
Great. That's awesome. Because the parental alienation study group I've been a member of for years, and it's really amazing what they're doing in terms of educating legislators and psychologists on this and helping parents understand what's really going on. It's I think it's awesome. Have you given them any of this information?
So in September, I'm going to be in Toronto, Canada, and I'm speaking at the PASG in Toronto for legislative changes. My solution
Fantastic.
is the legislative change.
Congratulations. That's awesome. I'm glad to
Yeah,
hear that.
thanks.
Wonderful. All right, so we've got to wrap up here, but the last question I really have for you is how has all of this legislative work, the going through the court system, the advocacy for other dads, going to 40 different states, how's the PTSD? How's the emotional part of dealing with hearing all the stories from dads who are lonely, isolated, depressed, ready to like take their own life because it's so devastating to them? How have you managed that aspect of this?
So I know when I have enough every day. You can feel it. You don't. You always carry it with you no matter what. And when someone talks about it, I'm sure you've experienced it, and it's a lot. You have to compartmentalize it, and you have to get away from it. And so I go ride a bike. I'll go work out. I'll do something to recenter myself, and that's what most people need to do. Is that you need to put the law books down, chat GPT down, quit googling things, and just take some time. And if you have a significant other, please, 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 at least once a week, go to dinner with them, take them out, tell them how much you appreciate them, because they are your support group and your biggest supporters. And so, and if you don't have that, please go into a support group. There's plenty of support groups out there. Type in parental alienation, type in, if you're a father, if you're a mother, even grandparents out there, they have support groups for parental alienation. So definitely do that. But definitely get some help. And if all else fails, get a therapist or a friend. I was going through this for several years when it first started, and it was the worst. I did a Tuesday dinner night. And so I invited all my friends over every Tuesday. They knew to come over, and they could invite someone else, bring some wine. And I always wanted to learn to cook. So I ordered Epicurious magazine, and I picked something different every week in that magazine to cook. And because everyone came over on Thursday, it forced me to have, that day, Tuesday dinner nights. And it was just amazing because it broke up. The weekend's okay. It's just that 5 day lag period that you have some issues. And so if you can break that up somehow like that, then you'll be okay.
That's awesome. Get- I know I've got to let you go, but man, you are just, I think I could talk to you for another 3 hours. You just continue to impress me, Robert. I'm so glad that you're doing the work you're doing. I'm sorry that the path you had to follow to get there, but man, you're making huge changes in the world. You should be really proud of yourself. And I hope your kids recognize what an absolute hero you are.
Thank you. It's funny you said that. I had my one of my daughters tell me one time, she's like, "Dad, can't you do something else? Like we're here. Like what? Why do you have to keep doing this?" And I was just like, "Wow. I don't know. The only thing," and I thought about that, and it made me think about Rosa Parks. I'm sure Rosa Parks went home and her husband was like, "Couldn't you have sat somewhere else?"
Right.
And it just, that conversation just kind of made me think about that. But I think it's going to take people standing up to the system for this to change. No more echo chambers. Be done with it. Do the support systems if you need them, but be done with it. You're not a victim anymore. And even if you still are going through this, pick up whatever you have to do and get out here and know that there's a solution for this, and become a warrior. Turn your pain into purpose.
People find you, Robert.
Yeah, they can go to robertgarza.us. Facebook is the best place to find me because that's the biggest social media I have. I really don't do all the other ones. I just started doing them, but Facebook's the biggest one, and robertgarza.us.
All right. Robert, thank you. I really appreciate your time. I'm going to let you go and have a great day.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having
Thanks,
me.
Robert. Dude, you're fucking awesome.